So, without any further ado, we are going to start looking through the teams and the pools.
Yes.
And we're going to start, obviously, with Pool A.
Yeah.
A reasonable place to start. Pool A consisting of Ireland, Scotland, Japan, Samoa and Russia. Japan, obviously, the hosts. And we're just going to start by taking the briefest look at Russia.
Yes, Russia are obviously the lowest ranked team in this pool, but also, curiously, they're the only team in this tournament that haven't arrived on merit. They didn't qualify in the Rugby Europe Championship.
Administrative merit.
Administrative merit, yes. Whistleblower fielding of ineligible players by, I think, was it Romania, Spain
and Belgium,
which all bumped them below Russia for them to springboard in.
Yes.
Next to the Georgians, obviously the two teams to qualify from that tournament. So they're obviously going to struggle. I reckon that really badly. They're coming off home defeats to the Jersey Reds and Connacht, which is not an encouraging sign to go into a pool like this. With teams like Samoa looked pretty decent in the PNC. Japan looked very, very good, and despite what happened with the Springbok game before, Japan still looked dangerous. Russia, I think, will be shocked. They are quite a physical team. They're quite big. They try and play a bit of like that kind of game, kind of bits and pieces game, and kick.
They try and move the ball around. They try and play exciting footy.
There's a fair bit of quitting them when it goes wrong.
There is, and they get stroppy. I think in terms of players to watch, I've always been a fan of their now captain Artemiev. He's a lad who actually was schooled up in Dublin in Blackrock College.
That's right.
Near enough to us. And he is a bit exciting. He can finish a score if you give it to him. And they have another lad, Davidov, who plays on the wing for them, who's a sevens lad, who is a useful player as well. And in terms of what they're hoping for from the tournament, realistically, 4 losses seem to be on the horizon. They're just going to be hoping to get some plays off.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be happy to be there. But it does represent an opportunity. If they can get a bit of momentum going, if they can get something going, there will be people watching in Russia, and it is a chance to grow the sport. Yeah. More likely than not. Probably not the side that we're going to be talking about in 6 weeks' time.
No, I'd imagine not. It's probably a bit early for them. Like, the fact that they managed to be here at all is obviously the achievement, and they'll target the Samoa game with more venom than the other ones, thinking that's probably their best good chance of getting a win. But even at that, it's a slim hope, I reckon, because I think there are levels to this game, and Russia are a few rungs below what else is in this pool.
For sure. More of an amateurish team, and probably there to make up the numbers. Yeah. In terms of Samoa, what are their chances? It's a curious one. They've sort of like island nations tend to be. They've been up and down over the last number of years. They took a hell of a long time to qualify for the tournament, doing so in a playoff against Germany, which could have been a more slippery playoff. You never know if it was against Romania, but for that ineligible player scandal that we just touched on. But they have assembled a nice squad for this tournament of a lot of pro players, a lot of talented players, and they certainly, in terms of their loose forwards and their centres in particular, along with Tim Nanai-Williams, they have some quality. They can make some plays happen. I think in particular that back row, whatever way they put it together of the 4 guys, Amosa will probably play at 8. Chris Vui then has to be in the team, and then one of TJ Ioane or Jack Lamb.
Those are all very fine players.
Making up a great back row with a bit of impact off the bench, whoever you don't leave out. So they can definitely make plays happen. They can be robust defensively. And in terms of their centres, they have Lilo and Leua they could go for. They could put Fonatia in and put Lilo to the wing. And then obviously in Nanai-Williams, they have a really, really classy player as well.
Yes, true, yeah.
So...
and they were impressive in terms of they got themselves back into the game against the Wallabies in the weekend just passed. Even though they were kind of outgunned in the first half, they managed to stick with it. They have 2 decent 10s in Sayuteni and Tusipisi.
That's true.
They have decisions to make there as far as who they want to do, and they couldn't. There's an element of horses for courses. They both play kind of different styles, so they can mix that up. They also have a bit of World Cup pedigree. Like, they've been here before. They know more about it than Russia, say, for sure.
Yes,
so like they'll be hoping to get some plays off, and they will be looking to target things like Scotland and Japan. They'll give them a game.
They definitely hope to. They had both Scotland and Japan in their pool the last time out, and they gave Scotland a decent go of it and kind of let themselves down against Japan. They were very tame that day.
That is unfortunate that in throughout their World Cup history they kind of have an element of that, more so than even when you look at Tonga or something, who tend to like punch above their weight in World Cup time. Samoa tend to look like they have a really talented squad, and you're thinking of like even Alasana back in the day, and so much potential, bags of potential, but it tends to feel like it's squandered come World Cup time. They never really seem to put it all together at the right time and make it happen. And just given the pool they're in, it's tough really, given that they have the hosts Japan as the other tier 2 team they're really competing with for third, because third is kind of a coveted goal for all these tier 2 sides, because that means automatic qualification.
It's true.
So but that'll be a tough ask in this pool, because
it'll all be a tough ask, but Samoa, like, I don't know if all the elements are there, but what I have seen this year has impressed me in the sense that they seem to have a bit of grit about them. They got a very good win over Tonga in the rain in Apia on the opening day of the PNC when it was just awful conditions, and they played a very skilled high level game. Sayuteni at 10 looked great.
That was an awesome game. They should keep going to the mine with that performance, because that is something they can really.
When you have workhorses in the back row who are going to keep making plays for you, and very skilled guys in the centre who can get offloads off, they have a chance to get some plays off. Ideally, you would hope that they can make some things happen in some of those games. I don't know if it'll be enough to win them, but I think they should be a fun team to watch and a side to look out for. In that pool as a side that you would hope can sort of bridge the gap between tier 2 and tier 1 and make it more scrappy. I think they're one of the sides that, in terms of developing the game, you would be optimistic about them not getting blown away by the tier 1 sides.
More so than some of the other tier 2. Just even the style of game they play, they can be attacking, they can be very physical. So it means that they can, if they string it all together, they can stand up for at least 60 minutes in these games anyway. There are other tier 2 sides in this comp that like try and play like a lower version of the kind of fundamentals game, and with them you fear more that they'll just get blown away because they're outmatched everywhere, whereas Samoa, you're hoping that when they get down to it and when the anthems are done and all this and they're ready for the game, that they do make it tough and physical and hit some guys very hard, and they may surprise the Scots or something in the first half. That's their hope for this.
And try not to get too loose. Suspicion though that obviously they are the fourth side in this group.
I suspect that's where they'll finish. I think they will have too much for Russia comfortably. I think everyone will have too much for Russia, but there are tougher challenges ahead for that Samoa team.
Moving on, Japan, obviously the third ranked team in this group, but they have lofty expectations.
They're the only champions in this group, PNC champions. There's no other champion in the pool, so they'll definitely be buoyant and confident coming in. They did get a bit of a shellacking at the hands of the Springboks, but that wasn't even quite a story of tier 1, tier 2. That was more a story of a box side wounded that was
the Springboks have done that to Argentina in Argentina and Australia with their B side.
There's not as much shame in it for sure, and especially given the performances they've shown throughout. The game against Fiji in the PNC was awesome. Their first 20 minutes in that game was stellar. You'd never see such beautiful rugby. And shocked the Fijians who were tournament favourites and champions going in. They look really, really buoyant and well prepared, and really like they've primed for this tournament. It's their World Cup, home World Cup. They're going to host it. They're going to be delighted to be doing so.
When we're talking about Samoa and we're talking about Russia, we're not talking about realistic expectations of a quarterfinal. It's not even a goal of theirs. Their goal is more to get some plays off, to have a positive showing, to live up to your potential and give these sides a game. With Japan, it's very much, let's see if we can make a quarterfinal. They were the first side to ever win 3 out of 4 pool games last time and not make a quarters.
Do you suspect they'll be going for more bonus points this time round?
Well, certainly their instinct to just take 3, especially in that game against Samoa when they were there for the taking. And they'd already been beaten by Scotland, and they should have been more prudent in terms of knowing what they needed to do.
But it's the first time they were ever there in a position to compete in a pool stage. It's easier said than done, and it was an unfortunate thing that they missed out after that wonderful performance 4 years ago. But they've definitely been growing since then, and as well as Eddie Jones did with them, now they're under Jamie Joseph, who's also a very prudent guy, former Highlanders coach, amazing. Just appreciation for what Japanese rugby is, and has them playing quick, technical rugby, and trying to keep the ball alive, trying to be faster and more skillful than the opposition.
There's a wonderfully true Japanese element to this side. They are very true to their nationality, and I think that the fans really respect that.
Yeah.
There is an Islander contingent in that side.
There is, yeah.
But they all speak Japanese and have really tried to embrace the culture over there, and their fans really appreciate it. It's a side that has a huge public backing. They seem to have a fascination with rugby.
Yeah,
they seem to really.
Japanese crowds are great. Like when even going back to the Super Rugby season, all the Sunwolves games that were played in Japan were great. And the crowd is like very receptive, and I always love when crowds respond to things like hits or drop balls or things that are just in the middle of play, and like when you get that kind of from the crowd getting a response, you know that they're properly engaged in every moment.
Exactly. They're looking at the game. And they do enjoy it, and they like the idea of their brave blossoms, their small men taking on the giants, the Godzillas.
Yes.
And they definitely can do it in terms of how they play this game. It's very fast, it's ruthless, it's about attacking space. Wherever it is, they can kick into space and find territory that way, or preferably pass into space and get their wingers on the ball. But they'll pick inside lines if the space is there. They'll run good aggressive lines off each other's shoulders and get offloads away. It's all about observing where the space is and attacking that.
But their set piece is very technical as well. They're very proficient at both scrum and line out. They're a well drilled side.
Tony Brown is a very good guy for launching nice attacks. Tony Brown is their attack coach. Obviously, he used to work with Joseph in the Highlanders and now is working with him here. He likes to launch things off set piece. You would expect to see some clever moves from them in that department. But yes, keeping the ball alive and keeping the game quick, trying to be the quickest team in this whole tournament is crucial. And one of the things that South Africa did to them that Fiji couldn't do, for example, and I guess the two highest level games they've played this year, one was exemplary against Fiji and the other less so against South Africa, was the Saffas managed to trap the ball in the tackle, and that's something they don't like. Even when they were getting stopped by Fiji, they like to turn it around. They don't want rucks. They want to get the offload away, even if it's just to the scrummy and you're resetting. You could just do without a ruck here. Move the ball quickly, get it out to the wingers who are their lethal guys, Fukuoka and Matsushima. That's the dream for them, and obviously physicality of the likes of Ireland could become a problem for them.
It could be, it has been before. It's been their kryptonite. Same with the England game last year, where they were so competitive for so long, but then the dam did break with that and that physical toll. They are still a relatively small side, and when you look at their rows as well, like they're reasonable good footballers, all of them. But and when it comes down to absolute physicality, they're sometimes lacking. That'll be the fear with Ireland now. Ireland do have a short turnaround into it, so they will be targeting that game. They'll be looking to, as you say, make it fast, make it loose. And we know, as Irish fans, we know that Ireland aren't good at chasing a game. So if Japan get their first 20-minute, first quarter blitz going, and Ireland are a bit sluggish, and then they go grab 2 tries, that's suddenly a hairy game, and it's one that Japan can win if they end up on top. But similar to the South Africa one, we were saying, like, if it's even remotely tight after 20 minutes, Japan probably won't match that.
If they get wrapped up in the contact and they can't get out the ball, that's terrible. And the other thing that's terrible is when teams hold the ball against them, big sides, that does start to tell that pressure.
And that's something that Ireland will try and do. But their cup final really is the Scotland game. In terms of this pool, like, in terms of realistic expectations of trying to make their first ever quarter final, Scotland are the team standing in their way, and Scotland are the team that brought them back down to earth 4 years ago after being on cloud 9 after that amazing win. So Scotland will have no fear of them really coming off putting a well-touted Georgia side to bed home and away. Scotland are actually riding a bit of momentum into this tournament, which is very positive. So Scotland is their cup final realistically for Japan, and it's a tough game at that. Like, Gregor Townsend has similar aspirations for Scotland, being a fast attacking team, led by Finn Russell at 10. Similarly, Japan have Yu Tamura, who's an excellent passer of a ball, good reader of a game, tries to kick them into good territory as well. We did see him a little frazzled and rocked in that Springbok game, but that had happened before him. Whenever you see a 10 in that way, it means the pack is suffering.
It's so harsh to judge a team on getting shellacked by the Boks. The Boks are just in some kind of mood, and we will talk about them when we're talking about Pool B. But Japan, definitely a load of optimism going into it. It's as with all tier 2 sides, they need things to go their way. They need the right end of the referee decisions. They need to have the plays come off when they have their opportunities. They have to take them. There are more scenarios where they don't make it out of the pool than ones where they do, but they definitely have a chance.
Yeah.
And it's all about pace and it's all about speed, and what's more, they're a very fun side to watch. I think everybody does enjoy them.
I really enjoy it. Yeah, for most people, it's their second favourite team is Japan. I really love watching the way they play the game. Love the technical aspect, the focus on skill and speed, as you say, but accuracy too. Like, is when it comes off, it's flawless rugby. It looks amazing. And they have some great admiral players, like Michael Leach is someone who you can't but admire as well. What a glittering career he's had.
Yeah, and still doing his best and pulling off some insanely skilled plays.
Yes, indeed. They're a very, very exciting team. At home, they have a chance, Scotland will not love the matchup, to be honest. They'll like, as much as they'll be game for it and bring it on, and realistically they should win it given their pedigree and where they are, Six Nations, Tier 1, Tier 2 kind of thing. But Japan will give them a right go, and the crowd will be right behind them and on top of Scotland. And we've seen Scotland, in terms of World Cycle Chat, we've seen them struggle away from home, and as opposed to being very buoyant in Murrayfield. And
it is a very different. They won't have the Murrayfield factor, which has been huge for them this whole cycle. But it's a very different thing being away from home to actually just being in a camp.
Yes.
In a place.
Yes.
For ages.
That's true.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's not quite away from home, and it's not.
No, it's not. But unless you're playing the hosts, Japan.
Yeah, but
and
even
it feels away.
It's definitely more of an away game. But even so, it's still got slightly different when you're in a World Cup.
Granted, that's true. I suppose we will pivot on then to Scotland. Because they have aspirations of quarter-final. They have actual realistic hopes of doing Ireland on day one and topping the pool and getting out and first. They will be thinking that way themselves.
Totally.
For sure. And why not? To be honest, they've beaten Ireland in this World Cup cycle. Not as often as they would have liked. They've have a few memories of some loose plays getting away from them, some chances gone awry that they just haven't executed against this Ireland team.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Schmidt's Ireland has tended to get the better of them. But that can all change. They have an amazing playmaker in Finn Russell at 10,
Phenomenal.
who can make stuff happen from anywhere on the pitch with kick, with pass, anything.
He's probably like the primary, visionary 10 in the game right now. Like, he is who Freddie Michalak wishes he was. You know, he's got an incredible vision and a skill set to boot.
Yeah.
Like, he will just throw off his left hand a 40-50 yard pass and just whip it across the field if that's where the space is, if you give him anything. He's probably the kryptonite if it goes off to that Bok blitz, to that English blitz. We saw, like, England, ferocious pace that they come out of the line with, and he ripped them to shreds with speed and accuracy. He's everything to this Scottish team. I mean, when we started this podcast back at the, I think, January of 2017, we took like a year break at one point, but we did start the podcast back then, and we actually, they were I think, our favourite side. For a very long time. And they've never quite lived up to the potential that the talent in the side has. But when they click, they are a joy to watch. I mean, they can be frustrating and maddening, like in the first half in Twickenham this year when they shipped 38 consecutive points, were just flapped all over the place by a relentless England and couldn't get anything off. And then they're joyous, like in the second half against England in Twickenham this year, when they just ripped apart one of the great sides in Twickenham, away from home, ripped them to shreds and just didn't stop scoring, except and until the game became winnable, at which point they did stop scoring.
Which is symptomatic of the issue with this side. It's like when all things are gone and there's no pressure off, they play probably the most spectacular rugby on the planet, and the second the stakes return, they blow it. Which is an unfortunate trait to have coming into a World Cup. It could be the undoing. It'll likely be the undoing against Ireland, but it could be more risky when they get to that Japan game as well. They want to be accurate. They want to play their game and impose their pace on it. They don't want to be as loose as they have been at times over these last 4 years. They've tended there are too many, I'm remembering far too many soft intercept plays, some terrible centre play defending, which I think they've remedied with this Sam Johnson-Harris combination.
They've remedied it as best they can.
But
they've left Hugh Jones out of the squad to rectify that.
Well, it was an issue. They were just leaking tries for fun through that centre channel. And as much as their whole pack are very harrying and harassing, which has always been a trait of Scottish rugby, even in the terrible years of Dan Parks kicking all their goals and all that, and then even before that Patterson kicking, and no back play to speak of, and a very ugly side to watch. This new iteration, far more exciting. Gregor Townsend has brought great grace to the way Scotland play rugby, but he's kept
Vern Cotter before him,
but he's kept that little bit of edge and niggle that serves them so well in the Six Nations. Their breakdowns are always bitty and confrontational, as is their line out, their maul. And they do try and get stuck into sides and make them awkward and harassing.
I think the key to them, reaching their potential is in that forward pack. It is, they've guys like Hamish Watson and John Barkley who will start on the flank, who at their best are brilliant breakdown operators. I remember when they beat Wales in Murrayfield and they just owned the breakdown that day. It's not an easy thing to do in Wales. That was in this cycle. And then obviously they have this more Edinburgh pack there. McAnally, a great ball carrier.
And he's another good jackler as well, to be honest. He contributes to that breakdown. And you're right, Gilchrist and Toulis had a real heft from the rows.
And indeed. And so they have a very useful pack. They have a very elite tight head scrummager, one in Willem Nel. And he could be a guy to impose himself on the Japanese, and they will try and take them on toe for toe, go for the attacking plays when they're there. They won't slow it up against Japan, but they will try and win it up front.
Well, they won't slow up their own ball. They'll try and slow up Japanese ball. That's kind of the distinction.
I think they will. I think they probably will have too much for Japan, but it is tight. They are an excellent side, and their objective going into this tournament is to give it all they can get against Ireland, maybe win that game, make a quarter final, and give they have recent memory of putting it up to the All Blacks in Murrayfield.
They do.
They're gonna give it all in that quarter final, no matter who they play, and they will get some plays off
for sure.
Very fun team to watch.
It is unfortunate for them that it's like as bad as it is as Ireland fans, that it's going to be either New Zealand or South Africa that they face in the quarterfinals. Even worse for Scotland that is the case, because they have no living memory of beating either of those sides, and it means that despite all the progress in this 4 years, you're going to probably reach quarterfinal and then reach the brick wall. That being said, they do have Japan to see off, who are tournament hosts, and a very dangerous side, and that'll be some game to watch. The two of them going at it, two great attacking sides.
It'll be one of the games of the tournament.
And I suppose then we can move on to Ireland, burying the lead no longer. Ireland, our team, we are hopeful, optimistic for our chances.
Number one seed in the pool.
Number one seed in the world, yes, managing to take the number one spot at the moment in time when the rankings mean exactly nothing.
Number one seed in the world is always
it is. It's a good feather in the cap. It's another first for Joe. Joe.
They certainly, it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to Ireland. They'll be looking to put it together. They're not the same team that Scotland and Japan are. They are not about ruthless necessarily, or not ruthless in the same way, offensive play. They do operate with some speed. They do like to catch teams off, but it is more methodical.
There's more of a kind of a steady rhythm. When they're in flow, it's not out and out blistering blitz with ball in hand, but it is a very kind of steady steamroller of an attacking set.
It's dominant collisions with the ball. Clean ball, because the ruck has been resourced very well. People
are running lines, not support lines for offloads, support lines for the ensuing rucks.
Well, indeed. And then quick ruck, quick ball, and always a few options. And that's where Sexton, who Ireland's 10, one of the great 10s in the world, his offensive play really comes into things. When Ireland are at their best, they are rhythmic. And Warren Gatland was criticising the other week for being off nine, but they do actually play quite a bit off Sexton as well, who runs their attack. And when they get a bit of go forward, they give Sexton the ball, and he'll play narrow. They will just try and win those collisions, but he'll have a few options and he'll pick the right one, the softest shoulder, and that's where Ireland can become very intimidating to deal with. When it's just a constant around the corner of good offensive lines and enough subtlety and cleverness in the attacking shape that it's actually hard to predict what they're doing. Which, at their worst, they do become predictable, and then they become stoppable. But at their best, they're not being like too expansive, but they are running subtle and creative angles in that attacking play.
And being every one of their ball carriers is physical as well. So you can have a Robbie Henshaw running off Johnny, and he'll be tough to stop.
You have Sexton, and he can pop it to one of Henshaw or Aki or CJ Stander, and you don't know who he's going to hit, and whoever he hits is going to be the guy who's running at a soft shoulder, and he's going to make yards. Then they're going to resource that breakdown, and then they're going to do it again. And that's what they do. They like to hold the ball. They take it through more phases than any other side. Unlike Japan, who are allergic to breakdowns,
This
they
is
go
the
through
opposite.
loads.
Yeah, it's a different style entirely, and it has merit. Like if you can hold the ball and kill the clock and spend 10 minutes of the game camped in the opposition 22, not necessarily scoring, but just making them make tackles, you can milk yellow cards from it. And Ireland at their best, 2018 vintage of this Ireland, are the most disciplined side in world rugby as well, because when they're on top there's no need to concede silly penalties, and they tend to be good at avoiding that, and they do force the opposition into giving away penalties in the wake of having no ball. And we've seen it work against the All Blacks, obviously, who are a team who like to get their hands on the ball. Same with the Wallabies. I'm thinking Test 2 in the series against Australia
Melbourne,
was a great illustration of all that Schmidt ball can be, in terms of we're playing off 9, we're playing off 10, lots of deception, lots of shakes, and lots of breakdowns.
Indeed, and at their best, it's Sexton running the show and being beautiful as well. Conor Murray is a guy who obviously has a huge reputation, hasn't been in great form, seemed to find it in that Welsh game at the end of the warm-ups.
He's definitely much better,
His passing game off 9 is very crisp, and they just like to hold the ball, like as you say, and pick good options. And with those two guys distributing, it can become a relentless thing. Their exit play has a bit of mix-up to it. We don't really know. They have box kicked, they have gone crossfield kick, they have whipped it across ball in hand. They'll likely vary that as they go. But one of their secret weapons is their sort of tight five eliteness. It's not that secret a weapon, I guess, but their scrum is phenomenal, and their backup scrum is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal too.
They have incredible prop forwards. Cian Healy has been one of the greats of the game, I think, for this decade.
And then Kilcoyne has come like a freight train for him as well. Like, I would have no fears of him starting a big game. He's
Kilcoyne behind him is in the form of his life, and is another very tigerish scrummager. At tight head, you have the best tight head out there, Tyg Furlong, who does a million things. He's a crucial player in terms of cleaning out rucks, offensive clean outs. He's I've never seen a guy quite like him at doing that. He's got such heft.
But again, in that second test, that Pocock clean out is one of the best things I've ever seen. Pocock getting over the typical Pocock stance, and Tyg Furlong at pace lays him out, puts him to around 4 meters beyond the ruck on his arse.
That's what he does.
He's a very powerful man.
He also grabs tries, so they can scrummage, and they brought it was a big news story over here when they named the squad. They left Dev out and they brought South African John Klein, but it was probably an indication of the fact that they're going to be looking for dominant scrummaging, especially against the likes of Scotland and Japan in this pool. They're going to look to get on top of them at scrum time, play their way down the pitch with penalties, and then hold the ball until there's tries and there's those teams are getting washed out. They're going to look to physically dominate both Scotland and Japan, and then obviously that's their opening week block, and then after that they will know where they stand, and they'll have games against Samoa and Japan, Samoa and Russia, who they will likely have way too much for.
And will mix it up as well. They have a good squad, like as you said, leaving out Devon Toner, similarly Kieran Marmion in great form, two lads who started against the All Blacks in that test last year that they beat them. That now they're not in the squad. It's the first time ever really that Ireland have come to a World Cup with a very, very competitive 31-man squad. We've always gone with very competitive 15-man teams, but never really prioritised the guys in behind it. And even like some of the talk from 07, there's always a few heads in the camp kind of walking around holding tackle bags, knowing that they have no hope of getting in shy of an injury, whereas that's not true with this team. It's competitive, no one's really safe, and he's created a very good environment where the guys behind know the system very well and can slot in and do a similar job.
Indeed.
So they're true contenders. They're coming in really buoyant.
They obviously, as we've touched on, Murray and Sexton are two of the great on their day. Certainly are two of the great distributing halfbacks in world rugby. They have a lethal winger in Jacob Stockdale, who's up there with anybody for grabbing tries. And they have one of the great players of the world right now in James Ryan, who's just a phenomenon. If you don't know him, you will after this tournament. He has a physical presence like few others, and a workhorse, and he changes games defensively and offensively just by dominating contacts and being incredibly dynamic and quick and smart. And he's definitely a big hope for Ireland as one of the great players of the world,
definitely,
who I'm all very excited to see. Predictions for the pool, what do we think?
Well, I'm predictions for the pool. I'm going to confidently say that Ireland are going to top it, that we're going to navigate those tough two tests against Scotland and then Japan. And then I am going to back Scotland to get it done against Japan. Based purely on based a lot actually on that those two showings against Georgia really encouraged me in terms of where Scotland are at, but also kind of affirmed something in my head, which is that I think there is more of a pronounced gap between Tier 1 and Tier 2 than there was 4 years ago. And for 4 years ago, we saw more competitive games. We saw obviously that Japan victory, but we saw a lot of Tier 2 sides putting it up to the Tier 1 ones. Whereas I think the rate of improvement has just
the biggest narrowing gap in this 4-year cycle has actually been between the likes of the All Blacks at the very top and the likes of Scotland at the bottom edge of Tier 1. That gap has narrowed dramatically. So all of Tier 1 is a whole lot closer than it used to be. And as a result, just the constant game time and the constantly improving coaching and everything else and professionalism that is developing amongst the Tier 1 sides is creating that natural gap against Tier 2 sides that are improving, but just not quite at the same rate as the Tier 1 sides above them. And I think, yes, that might be a recurring theme.
Might be. That being said, Japan are closer than most. They're one of the big three in terms of Tier 2 sides. They're up there, and they will be giving both Scotland and Ireland a game.
The predictions aren't that important. There are conditions for Japan to get out of this pool. It can happen. It's one of the possibilities. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that game, which will be on the last weekend more than any other.
True.
And obviously Ireland Scotland on the opening weekend will colour a lot of it as well.
Yes, very true.
But yes, Ireland, I think, the strongest side and the one real contender in Pool A.
Yes, I'd agree. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment as well, because we enjoy the chat and conversation. Thank you.